Going on, Falcon fan? It's your Kundo coming back at you with another video. So today we're gonna talk about the draft season, guys. It's here. From now until April, end of April next month, we're gonna talk about a lot of draft prospects. Guys want to start going on their 30-day visits. Um, you're gonna see probably some teams maybe potentially move up in the draft, trying to go for quarterbacks, maneuvering things. But this is time where front offices and all the staffs and all around the NFL start to set their boards and get their boards right and kind of figure out what they're doing. Free agency is about 3 weeks in, so teams start to settle in there. You're still probably going to see moves from free agency and things like that. But however, it's draft season. It's all about the draft. We got to start to seeing what the Atlanta Falcons can do to add depth to this team, the places where needed. That's going to be the question today. So, guys, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know that I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys out here to talk about. Then please share my video up to the YouTube universe so more people can come in and hear me talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. What's going on, Ricky? What's going on, man? Haven't been here since Wednesday, and to be honest with you guys, I was just sitting back waiting to see if the Falcons were going to make any other moves this week, which they did not make any moves. To of course to my surprise, and so that's where it's been. I know that they got the owners meeting going on, things like that. They got the competition committee. They voting on the rules. One of the rules we talk about the drop hip tackle, probably is going to get banned here soon from the NFL. So the kickoff rules, we'll find out how that's going to pan out. We also just keep in mind towards the end of this month, probably going to start coming out NFL schedule as well. So still got a lot of things going on, but it's really been dead, especially in Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons probably got one of the least amount of cap space right now in the league. Looking at it, um, that really don't mean nothing. I hope you guys are aware of that. Does not mean anything when you're looking at the cap space because they definitely can create cap space if they needed to. They're gonna have to create cap space 100% because of the draft. They have to, sign their draft these guys. So I do anticipate some moves to be made, but right now it's quiet on the front, and that's why I have not been on here since Wednesday. I was sitting back waiting to see if we hear any news, something like that, but we didn't hear anything. So I'm back on here because I missed a week. I wanted to talk Falcon football. It's a lot to talk about. Some rumors out there going on. Of course, we do have rumors. Um, that's definitely in the ether out there. And we'll talk about some of those rumors today. I also want to talk about um, where this Atlanta Falcon team sits right now. Um, for us roster wise, and that will be the first topic that we'll talk about today. Is how do we feel? How do we feel about the team right now? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Um, I know everybody was really excited. It was kind of anticlimactic, right? Because um, pretty much Atlanta Falcons that Monday, the first day of tampering period, we already knew who our quarterback was. We had been talking about it off season. What they was going to do at quarterback, what direction they was going in. Was it draft? Was it trade? Was it free agency? And they went the free agency route. They went and got Kirk Cousins and brought him in. We all know that they signed him to a 4 year, $180 million contract, 100 million guaranteed, 90 million, the first 2 years, right? We all aware of the whole what happened, with our quarterback situation. We did make a lot more moves on the offensive side of the ball, bringing in our tight end that we brought in and Charlie Warner. We brought in Darnell Mooney, traded for Rondale Moore, and we brought in Ray McLeod, and we re-signed, Cardell Hodge, right? So that's all the moves we made. On the defensive side, we brought in Contavious Street. We re-signed Nate Landman. Um, so that's where we stand. So the question is, how do we feel about the team right now? And I think I came on here. I said on Wednesday, and I going to stand by my statement when I said I just think it's incomplete. Um, so right now, I'm not going to feel any type of way for us. I just know it's going more moves. It's got to be made to finish this roster out. They got a lot of guys on the contract, so it's not where they have to fill spots on, but they do need to fill holes, right? And that's where I think the Atlanta Falcons need to start looking towards the draft, right? We gotta have to do that. They have did a really good job of developing players. If you look at the last couple of drafts, it's a lot of talented young guys on this team that definitely probably need to take steps going from year one to year two to year three, things like that we need to see. Um, most NFL front offices like to build to the draft, right? That's really how you do it because that's how you create sustainability. That's how you keep your guys on their, manageable contracts and things like that. Of course, once you pay your quarterback, you really have to start maneuvering how you're going to be able to build this team the right way, and you're gonna have to do that with younger talent. So that's where the draft comes into play. So when we ask about how you feel about this team right now, in my opinion, the question we all should be asking ourselves is, um, can this team, the way it's currently constructed, could it win the NFC South? And I would say, based off the moves that our other division robberies made in the NFC South, I think we're right there with all those guys, right? Um, you look at what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was able to do, bringing back, their two cornerstone people that they had to bring in back in Mike Evans, bringing back Baker Mayfield, all those guys coming in back into the fold, right? But they lost the key players. They lost one of their starting cornerbacks. They lost their middle linebacker. They lost their starting center who retired in Ryan Jensen. So they was able to franchise tag their safety, and so they was able to keep some people there with the roster. But when you're looking at it from overall, um, Tampa Bay kind of stayed the same, right? They went 9-8. They kind of stayed the same. I'm pretty sure they're betting on, Baker Mayfield getting into his second season. However, he is going to have a new offensive coordinator, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out for them. But that's what they're betting on. If you're looking at what the Carolina Panthers did, you have to like what they did for their young quarterback and Bryce Young. They brought him two solid, guards to anchor their offensive line. Um, they got him another receiver in Deontay Johnson. They kind of filled out their defensive. They did lose pieces on the defensive side of the ball, like Luvu, players like that. So they had to restock their offensive line. So we do know um, that's the direction they had to go in. But the biggest thing for them, they trying to figure out, can their young quarterback play? They got a new head coach, Canellis, who's actually was Baker Mayfield offensive coordinator last year. So it's going to be interesting to see, how the growth of young Bryce Young is going to be, for that Carolina Panther team, because they got to figure out and find out, can he actually play? Um, his offensive line was just not good last year. The offensive talent or they put around him, Adam Thielen kind of getting a little older, still a solid receiver, but bringing in Deontay Johnson is going to definitely help him out, and they still can make moves in the draft. Of course, they don't have a first round pick. They started the second round pick, but remember, because of their record, they're picking early in every round, so they still have the first pick in the second round. So, that's pretty much a first round pick for those guys. So, and they should be able to get some good talent there. So we'll see what happens with Carolina Panthers. And then you got the New Orleans Saints, who just they just want to stay where they're at. They keep pushing stuff down the road for far as their calorie salary cap um, goes. Right, they keep pushing down the road, but they didn't make a lot of moves at either. Um, they did sign Chase Young, who's got to have surgery. We'll see how that pans out for them. But looking at what the New Orleans Saints doing, they hoping Derek Carr in his second year will be better, right? So, far as how I feel about this roster, right now, I definitely believe that the Atlanta Falcons can compete with teams in the NFC South. That should be the first overall goal when you're coming into any season is to win your division, because if you win your division, you host a home game, right? But that's not what we want. That's not what we're searching for this team. We want this team to compete for the NFC overall, right? To try to get into the Super Bowl. So that's why I put an incomplete grade on it for so far right now for the Atlanta Falcons. So that's how I'm feeling. But um, curious to see. Let's see here. I'm concerned about McGarry protecting Cousins, and I'm surprised no extensions, restructures. Interested to see what next few weeks got a lot of players still on the market. That is 100% true. What's going on, Dixon Way? Like button smash. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Um, Ricky, that is a great point that you made. And this is where the frustration come in. Um, because it's still March, right? I'm trying not to get like come on here and go on a rant, right? Because if it was June or July, I ain't gonna lie, and the Falcons still didn't make any moves, they didn't do any restructuring and things like that, and they felt like they were just going into the season like they had solved all the issues because they brought in Kirk Cousins, I would be really upset. So, um, but I don't think that's the case. I really don't. I believe that um, they're just wearing their time. I think Art, I think Arthur, I think Terry Fontenot has a plan. I really do. I really believe that Terry Fontenot has a game plan. They haven't sorted out. I still believe that AJ Terrell contract will be coming here soon. That's going to free up cap space right off the bat, right? That's before any restructures, any cuts, anything like that. They're going to be able to extend AJ Terrell, right? I think he's got a $12 million cap hit. You extend him, his cap hit can really be a little bit of nothing this year, right? Because you can move all his money into the further years because he's going to be here a while with the team, right? So I still believe that's one of the first dominoes to fall is the AJ Terrell extension to happen. Then to your point, we can definitely do some restructures here. We can do restructures to our left tackle, Jake Matthews. We can do some restructures to Chris Lindstrom if we needed to. Also, we can do the Jesse Bates, right? Grady Jarrett is I don't know if they really want to go there because all his guaranteed money is gone. So if they, if it was in some world where they want to decide to get rid of Grady next season, they could because they don't have to getting all the guarantee money is going for next season. So, but if they plan on keeping Grady, they could actually extend him as well. So that's where you start looking at the cap and figure out, where they can actually create money. But if they just do those restructures, we definitely have money. And that extension, AJ Terrell, definitely give us more cap space, be able to sign our draft class, and then go out and get more free agents as needed before we get into the draft, here in April. So I agree with you 100%. I also agree with you. I'm kind of worried about Caleb McGarry. I know a lot of people been talking about it. He's a great, excellent run blocker, right? He fires off the ball. When it comes to the run game, Caleb McGarry is freaking outstanding. But in that pass protection, to to your point, where you have a quarterback, it's not is going to be trying to maneuver himself and get out of the pocket a lot. He's going to utilize the pocket, his pocket presence. You watch Kirk Cousins; he does a lot of stepping up in the pockets. He step to the side, he moves, he maneuvers through the pockets where he can actually be able to pass the ball down the field. So I agree with you 100%. Little concerned about Caleb McGarry. I'm not being honest with you. I'm kind of concerned about Drew Dalman as well as our center. In the past game because this team has been so run dominant. Throughout the years since Arthur Smith was here. Um, you know, we have really seen this team drop back a lot and do a lot of pass rotations. So it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. And you're right, Kevin McGarry has to be able to be better in that. But I do like the continuity of this offensive line. They've been playing together for a while. So hopefully, with Delane Dwayne Leffert here, we can actually be able to sustain that. So that's a great point that you mentioned about, this, and that's the point that we're making right now. It's just, in my opinion, how this roster is built right now. It's just not where we want it to be. So I agree, but I still believe that since it's late March, April's coming up, I still think they can make a lot of moves. And to your point, there is a lot of good, solid free agents still out there, that this team can actually sign, right? And if they just get a plug one or two more holes in free agency on the defensive side of the ball, I think it'll make a lot of us a whole lot better before we get into the draft season. So I agree with you 100% on that. Um, I hope we move back and then we can get help on defense, offensive lines, and secondary. We're going to talk about the draft strategy. So I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan, and we'll go right into that topic next. And that's the draft strategy for the 2024 season, right? So by the fact that the Atlanta Falcons solved their quarterback issue that they had, which one of the main issues they had to solve, right? A lot of people felt like they might have to move up in the draft, right? Maneuver picks around to try to get a quarterback. You want these young quarterbacks in the draft, right? They don't have to do that, right? They kind of filled some of the offensive other need that they had on the offense side of the ball at the receiver position. And because this wide receiver class is so deep, right? The Atlanta Falcons can afford not to go offense for maybe for the first time, right? They could have did it other years too, but I think this year, you know, they definitely do not have to go offensive player right at that first spot, unless they go offensive tackle, because they can definitely do that. We just talked about it. They want to make sure they, protecting Kirk Cousins. They can actually go offensive line in the first round. So I do see them making that be one of the things that they can definitely do, right? But I anticipate the Atlanta Falcons, and it looks like around the league as well. If you look at all the mock drafts around the league, for the most part, most people are picking the Atlanta Falcons to go defense, right? Either it's a cornerback and Arnold or Mitchell, one of those guys, or people's picking one of those pass rushers in Verse or Turner or even Latu, right? So one of those guys look like it's going to be one of the Atlanta Falcons pick, in the first round. That's where it really look like it's the direction of where that pick is going to go. However, if you're thinking about where Ryan was talking about moving back in the draft, so this could be one of the Atlanta Falcons draft strategies, right? And you could move back. I'm not saying move back for that far. One of my last mock drafts that I did, I think I moved back to 12. I think that was with the Denver Broncos. They can even move back to 11 with the Minnesota Vikings, right? Minnesota actually traded with the Houston Texans to get another first round pick, so they can actually package those picks to move up in the draft. Only problem with that, I think Minnesota probably have to move higher than number 8 if they want to get a quarterback, because you still have the New York Giants in there at 6, where I think the New York Giants more than likely might pick a quarterback if they feel like one of their guys there. Dave Jones can't stay healthy. Yes, they got him for $40 million, but I think after this season they'll be able to move away from him if they need to. So and I think if the Minnesota Vikings decide to move up, they're going to move up to maybe 4 with the Arizona Cardinals, or they might move into the top 3. But it looks like right now it seems like those top 3 teams are going to pick a quarterback. So the earliest the Minnesota Vikings probably going to move up is number 4, right? And if they do that, that's is where you look at teams like the Las Vegas Raiders, what they would like to do. Denver Broncos, another team, could consider moving up. So that's where the Atlanta Falcons may be able to move back a little bit, get some more draft capitals, and then do what Ryan just mentioned, and that's to actually add to secondary, add to offensive line, right? Add one of those pass rushers. I believe that one of those pass rushers will be there if we move back into the early teens, right? 11, 12, 13, somewhere around that point. I think Turner, Verse, or Latu will still be on the board if we want to still go defensive pass rusher, right? I do believe that. Um, and for me personally, I like all three of those guys. Um, I like, in my opinion, I like Dallas Turner the most because his upside, just like his athletic ability. I think he fits well in this 3-4 scheme that's going to be ran here under Jimmy Lake and Raheem Morris. So I like him. I think the most polished guy is Latu. I think he's already come in the league with pass rush skills on an elite level. I think he can come in and he can actually hit the ground running right away. Verse, I love his explosiveness. I love how strong he is. I love his power rush. So either one of those guys for me at a pass rush position would be fine. All right. If you want a cornerback, I like Mitchell, Quentin Mitchell. I like Arnold. I like Wiggins. I think Wiggins might be too high. Unless we move back a little bit to get a guy like that. But between those three guys, um, even Cooper, I like him as well. So either one of those cornerbacks. So any way that the Atlanta Falcons would like to go from a defensive standpoint in cornerback or pass rush, I think if they move back, they'll actually be able to do that. So now if they decide to go offensive line, it's a couple great offensive linemen that's out there as well. That could be an option, and they could feel the same angst that we feel about Caleb McGarry and deciding to going to get an offensive tackle to protect our quarterback, right? Because if you can't keep him upright, you're not going to be able to do some of the things that you want to do, with this Atlanta Falcons offense. So that's a great point. But the strategy for 2024 for Atlanta Falcons is wide open. They could actually, you have to say it, they can actually stay at 8, right, and take the best player available on the board. They have done that the last 3 seasons. To a lot of us, like, why we just want to go get a pass rusher, right? So they definitely could make the decision to stay there and just say one of those talented receivers is still on the board. The Atlanta Falcons could actually go that route. It would not be a terrible pick. I think they'll be able to find not a guy to that caliber, at number 8 was one of those three main guys, but I still think they'll find a solid receiver that could be their number 2 guy, right? We already presumably got our number 1, so you don't really need to go and get another number 1, receiver. You could. It don't. I'm not. You're not saying that it's not a great idea, something that they wouldn't think about, but I don't think that would definitely help the Atlanta Falcons out this year. Yes, we'll be a explosive offense. And the whole idea to score more points than the other team, tracking with that. But we're trying to build a balanced team, a team that that could be sustainable, be able to stop guys in the fourth quarter as well. Go back to some of our games that we had this past season in 2023. A lot of times we had the lead with you know, and we couldn't get a stop. Our defense was on the field. We did a whole lot better this year than we did in other years, but still we had some hiccups there. So you want to be able to build this defense up just as well as the offense. Um, Reggie 2K said, "Gang, I'm concerned about McGarry." Everybody concerned about McGarry, man. Everybody concerned about McGarry. Ryan says, "If we stay at 8, I'm looking for Alt for Notre Dame. Could be or like Orlando play. Yes, yes. If they decide to go offense, tackle at 8. Now that won't be a sexy pick, right? But it'll be a really good pick for them to do that. It could be a really good pick for you to do that. Now, this draft strategy to me also plays in if they make any more moves in free agency, right? That's the key. Like, so if they sign a pass rusher, um, um, just say if they go get with the rumor with Hassan Reddick that's out there right now, and they signed for him. Now you hoping, and this what I mean about it could change the draft strategy, because now you're hoping, you got Army Ebiketie going to his year 3 season, right? And he's going to improve. That's what you're hoping. You got to be able to see some improvements for him. But then you got a Hassan Reddick on the other side, who's in the last 3 or 4 seasons, he's 4th in sacks, right? That's what you're getting on the other side if you get a guy like Hassan Reddick. So um, that's the potential of what I'm talking about, where draft strategies could differ from what we're talking about right now until we get into draft season, right? Next month, because they could make another move, right? So then, if that case, going offensive tackle like a Joe Alt would not be a bad move at all, because now you're solidifying your offensive line. Jay Matthews is getting a little older. You can actually keep him at left tackle and move Alt to right tackle. The biggest thing about that, Alt has never played right tackle, right? So now you kind of experiment a little bit. Could that be something the Falcons will be interested in? It was kind of easy to do what we did with Matthew Bergeron, because he played left tackle. You put him at left guard, right? So he's still on the left side, but you're talking about a guy that played left tackle, throughout his college career. Then you move him to the right side. So that would be interesting to see if the Falcons is willing to make that pick and see could he actually play the other side. Don't think it'll be an issue for him, but you just have to decide if that's something they want to do. And then, later on down the future, he moved back to the left side when Jay Matthews is out the door. That's the way you're looking at it. So great point. That's the draft strategy. So in the end, we think about the draft strategy. Would the Atlanta Falcons actually stay put? Would they move back and get extra draft capital, right? And add add to the add to the holes that we got. In my opinion, when you're looking at this team and the holes that we have, we're going to say offensive line depth. I think we need to make sure we solidify the offensive line. Secondary, we need a cornerback. I do like our young cornerback in Clark Phillips. Third, I like D. Alford, right? Mike Hughes, and then we got AJ. Those the guys we got on the roster right now. I think Brooks is on there as well, but we do need to solidify that second quarterback spot. I think bringing a guy like Clark Phillips in, where this defense is going to be a little bit more zone than man coverage, right? I think it's going to help Clark Phillips. That's where he got most of his interceptions, because he's been able to read the quarterback eyes, his instincts and things like that start to kick in. Rice going a lot of man-to-man. I think man-to-man still will be played, but a little bit more zone than man coverage. That's what I'm thinking. So like a guy like Nate Wiggins, right? Really good in zone coverage, because it's his ability to recover on plays. I love physical corners as well, guys that come down and make plays. That's why I like AJ Terrell so much. But a guy like Arnold, right, coming out of Alabama is really, really physical. I like Quinn Mitchell is another guy. So they can go a lot of ways here at number 8. I think they can get a lot of those guys as they decide to move back as well. So this is the draft where the first 3 or 4 picks was kind of dictate how this draft is going to be played out a whole lot, right? This is to determine what direction the Falcons might go in, determine where a lot of teams want to start maneuvering, trying to come up the board, because a lot of teams that, itching to try to find that quarterback for their team. That's where it is at right now. Like I said, the Vegas Raiders, when they got Gardner Minshew, is he the guy for their future? Probably not. The Giants, is Daniel Jones the guy of their future? Probably not. Jared Stidham for the Broncos, is he the guy? Sam Darnold for the Vikings. So you see what I'm saying? All these guys are backups. Are these teams willing to ride with those teams? And let some of these quarterback pass in the draft. We'll just have to see, right? I think the quarterback's going to dictate a lot of this draft, which means it's going to be a lot of other talent positions out there later in the first round. We just talked about offensive line, just mentioned cornerback, I mentioned edge rusher, mentioned receivers. So it's going to be a lot of talent out there that is going to benefit a lot of teams because of that quarterback position per se. So um, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait. Um, can't wait to the draft. But we got to, in my opinion, the Falcons got to do a little bit more work. I'm not ready for the draft yet because I want to see what the Falcons, what else they do before that time frame. What's going on, Wallace? What's going on, Uncle Steve? Wallace says, I think they will mix it up with their coverage, keep the offense guessing, and where they're going to play on defense. I agree. And one reason why I agree with you on that, Wallace, is because um, the coaching, background of Raheem Morris himself played a lot of. He came from the Tampa 2, right? He came straight out from that Tampa 2 defense, right? We know that's that two high man safety right there. But if you go look over time and look at the other defenses that they've been a part of, you just go back and look at what he did with Los Angeles Rams last year. It was different. So he was under Dan Quinn, who had a lot of cover three, right? So you know, Raheem Morris' background, along with what you've seen with Jimmy Lake was able to do at the Washington, at Washington as well, I agree. It's going to be multiple. It's going to be multiple. The coverage, and then you take Jerry Gray, and some of the things we did last year really worked well as well. So it's going to be multiple, and that's what you want to do. You want to mix up your pitches, right? You don't want to give them a steady dose of anything. You see that right now in the NBA a lot of times where they may be playing man to man, then they'll suddenly go to zone defense, and it kind of throw teams off because they wasn't ready for the zone, right? Um, so you got to be able to mix it up. I agree with you 100%. Once they do that, I think it's going to work well in their favor. So, um, but you got to get the pieces for that um, to fit, right? Because you always say you're going to put players in their best position to play to their strengths, and that's where one of my concerns is safety. Why I'm really concerned. I think Richard Grant regressed a lot this past season. He's a great box safety, but in coverage, they just took advantage of Richard Grant. There's no other way around it. Um, that's why I believe DeMarco Hellams could be the first guy in the shoot at starting that safety position if the Falcons don't make an upgrade there at the safety position. I think DeMarco Hellams actually might. We look towards the end of the season, he was already starting over Richard Grant in some starts. So I think he might get the first nod at it. We still got Michael Abernathy there as well. But that safety position, besides Jesse Bates, I think is still a hole as well. Like we just talked about cornerback position. Since we're going to the 3-4, I feel like they need a big body in the middle, nose tackle there. We could get that in the draft. I know Wallace mentions DeAndre Sweat a lot, so we can go there. 100% can go that route, but those are the holes, in my opinion. If they just solidify some of these spots before the draft, we'll have a better idea of the direction they're going to go in, right? Because you have to add depth to these positions. Just look at what happened last year. Grady go down, and then we bring in Contavious Sweet. I mean, Contavious that he goes down as well, right? David Amayalis is hampered with an ankle injury, so he's not 100%, and he missed some games. You want a guy like Taquan Graham to take another step. We'll have to see what he's able to do. Haven't been mentioned a lot in this off season because didn't do a whole lot this past season. I really thought he was going to actually take a step forward too, as well. So we'll just have to see. You got guys like Ade Okendeji that was on the IR last season. Um, what is his role going to be on this team? Is he even going to be on the team next season? We don't know, right? So those are some of the things we definitely got to think about when it comes to this roster and their strategy going into the draft. But I believe it's going to change. Hopefully it changes. Let's just say that because they're going to make some more moves before the draft. So that's where I'm at with it. But this draft is going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be one of the most moves by teams on up and down the draft board than any other year because of the quarterbacks per se. I know if you go back 2 years ago, in the quarterbacks, everybody thought some of those quarterbacks were going off the board early, and we was fooled, right? Big time, right? I think the first quarterback went off at 20 and Kenny Pickett. Then the next quarterback didn't come out to 74 to the Atlanta Falcons with Desmond Ritter. So could be something like that happen. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the first three going off, and then I think within the next round, between the first round and then the second round, I think three more is going to come off the board, and J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix Jr. So we'll just have to see. But we don't know another guy that's out there, Spencer Rattler. Where do people see Spencer Rattler at? So that's another guy that that teams need to be looking at, because what we get, right, we don't know how teams view guys. That's how 2 years ago, a lot of people had some of those quarterbacks. Like some people had Malik Willis going to Atlanta Falcons at 2 years ago, if you recall that, right? They had him a top 10 pick, and he actually went late third round. So that's how off, these media be boosting these guys up, but then those draft rooms, they have the guys graded because they've been looking at tape, right? We look at pro days and combines and things like that, but they actually look at NFL tape, and then they see the potential, they see the ceiling, or they see the floor. That's what they see. While it says, I think if we make no moves this week in free agency, then we might wait until after the draft to try to get some free agency players on the cheap 1-year deals. You might be right on that. I'm right on that. I'm just hoping they do something, man. For me, it's been boring. It really been boring this offseason. Like I said, because we kind of hit the ground running the first 2 days. That tampering period, we was pretty. When by the time the new league got here, we had already potentially agreed upon deals. We just had to put the guys pen to paper, right? So by that Wednesday, we was done, and we haven't did anything since. I mean, we brought in Contavious Street, right? We brought in Cardell Hodge, I think was the last one, but mostly all the guys that we already signed kind of was done that first week. So it's just been boring, man. It's just, I'm gonna be honest with you. I do believe they're gonna add more players to the roster, but it's just been really boring. Which brings me to when it's boredom down there and it's quiet, it's when it's nothing going on in the NFL, right? You start to get rumors. Right? And you have to take some of these rumors with a grain of salt. You just have to, because you don't know what to believe, right? Because people put out things all the times, and then it could grow legs and it could go down a different path, but you don't know if it's true or not, right? But one of the rumors that's really really hot right now, and it might have some truth to it, is the fact that Atlanta Falcons might be in on trying to trade for Hassan Reddick. Personally, I believe this would be a home run trade for the Atlanta Falcons. Yes, you're going to have to probably give us some draft capital, which is, in my opinion, would be worth giving up even a second round pick here on the same second round that you was going to give up last year for Montez Sweat. that we missed out on. I think you could do that here for Son Reddick. Like I just mentioned, he's fourth in the last 3 or 4 seasons in sacks, right? So that means this guy get to the passer, and I think he's a perfect fit for what this offense is all about. I mean, this defense is all about this season. Maybe not in the Ryan Nielsen when they had to go into the 4-3 with the big defensive ends, but having going to that 3-4 and having that Hassan Reddick come off the outside, I think is really, really a good idea. I think they should consider it. Like I said, don't know how true this is. Not sure what the Eagles will be asking for to get him, but I really believe that the reporting is true that they're trying to trade him. And Atlanta Falcons not the only team. So that's the biggest thing about it is Atlanta Falcons has missed out on numerous pass rushers over the last couple of seasons, getting outbidded and things like that. We reported like we was trying to go after Neil Hunter this past off season, but can't. The guy wanted to go home, so I don't know if we was going to win that deal anyway. But I think we offered a fair contract, and we just didn't get it done. We was going to get Sweat last year. We missed out on him, right? So Falcons just can't get it. But my opinion is they just got to go out. They need to take the same approach they took for Kirk Cousins. They outbidded Minnesota, 100%. But this is a issue. Is just in my opinion, just as important as getting the quarterback nailed it. Is trying to get a pass rusher in here, a dominant pass rusher. That's what I think they got to do. Um, and so that's what they need to do. So this rumor here is one of the rumors. I'm kind of hoping it's true, and I'm hoping that they can actually get something done here. Of course, they probably have to give Hassan Reddick a contract, but that is all right, right? This right here is one of the moves that I mentioned. If they go this route and and trade for a Hassan Reddick, the draft strategy could change dramatically. Now, it doesn't limit them from going out and getting another pass rusher, in the draft, but it's so many different directions they can go at this point because one of their biggest needs that they had to fill is, getting that pass rush. Bring a guy like Hassan Reddick, who's still not even 30-year-old yet. You can bring him in. I think this will be a big get for the Atlanta Falcons. So hopefully that this rumor is true. Hoping it's starting to go like the Kirk Cousins, that it's starting to lean more and more to the Atlanta Falcons. But in this instance, you have to get the other team to play, and they're going to get the best deal, out there for their bargain, right? That's what they're going to try to do. So Atlanta Falcons get outbidded again. That could be the case. Wallace says, I don't listen a lot to rumors about our team unless it's coming from an organization that don't leak any information about what they're going. Exactly. That's why you have to take these rumors with a grain of salt. I agree with you 100%, Wallace, because we don't hear anything out of the organization, right? We don't know what's going on. I mean, if you look at the offseason, 1 week we was head in on Justin Fields 100%, right? It was I think if you go to Vegas and you're looking at the odds or where Justin Fields is going to land, I think it was negative 120, something like that. For going to Atlanta Falcons. Then the next week it was something like that for Kirk Cousins, right? But it wasn't nothing coming out of the organization. It was what insiders were saying and people coming out and hearing, listen to the tea leaves and things like that, trying to figure out what was going on. So I agree with you 100%. Don't listen to the rumors, but some of these rumors does have truth to it. You have to just see how everything pans out. But until it happens, you're right. Don't get your hopes up for it. I think for us, especially because we've been yearning for a pass rusher for so long, this right here would really help the cause. A guy who had double-digit sacks last year, and like I said, if you recall, we haven't had a double-digit sack guy since Vic Beasley in 2016. So that would be a big get for the Atlanta Falcons. Philly is trying to get something for Reddick before they cut him because he's counting toward $21 million cap hit for them. Right, that's what I'm saying. The Atlanta Falcons could trade for him. They're gonna have to probably get him a contract, but that's okay. That's okay because it will be worth it in my opinion. They was willing to pay Danielle Hunter that much. I'm not saying that he's in the same, you know, stratosphere with Danielle Hunter. However, he's right there, right behind him. So you're gonna have to go to the 24, 25 million, right? But maybe the 18 to 21 million would be good deal for Hassan Reddick. Remember he's still on a 30-year-old, so um, it would not be a bad contract if he can continue to do what he's been doing these last seasons between the Cardinals and the Panthers and the Eagles. What if we get Simmons at safety? It would probably be cheaper, and secondary would be excellent. Yes, that's another guy. I know everybody keep throwing his name out there. The rumor that was out there was going to get the safety out of Seattle that just got cut, and I think if he could stay healthy, maybe, but I think Simmons is a better get. So I agree with you. The problem is with Simmons is that he's probably the best free agents left on the market. So it's not going to be as cheap as you think, right? So this is where Waller was talking about waiting to after the draft, and then you might be able to get him on a cheaper deal, right? That's where, because now guys don't create a depth some places now. Guys, teams can start to figure out we need a place here, we need a place here, and when players say I can fit there, I'm gonna play there, so I can come on a 1-year deal and boost back up my value, so I can go get a longer term deal somewhere else, right? So that's where you could bring in a guy like Simmons. So I agree with you 100%. That's something that they could consider, but we just don't know. But Simmons, in my opinion, would definitely be a good get for the Atlanta Falcons. They decide to go that route. So agree with you 100% on that. Yes, bringing a guy like Simmons, So I like that idea. Bringing in the Simmons, but guys, just like Wallace said, don't put a lot of your time and effort in these rumors. That's why most of the time I really don't come out and talk about rumors. Yeah, if you notice that, because I just don't believe in them, because they have so much crap out there, and then I come out here and I talk about it, and then get your hopes up for something, and it's never gonna happen. Like, think about it. Like last year when the Lamar Jackson thing came out, and everybody was like, Lamar Jackson, we was never getting Lamar Jackson. It was been a waste of time to even talk about it, in my opinion. Even though I came in here and talked about it, but I think I came like, he's never going to leave Baltimore. It's not going to happen, right? There's no need for us to even make an offer to him, because it was just helping the Baltimore Ravens out because they wanted to see where the market was, right? He was never leaving. So that's what I mean by, coming out here talking about these rumors and things. I feel like it's wasting my time, to be honest with you. Did bring up these two because I wanted to happen, because we need it. We need, in my opinion, we need a safety. And then if we get a pass rush, the Falcons can go into the draft with anything they want to do. They wanted to go receiver 8. I wouldn't even be upset if they get a pass rusher and a safety, or either cornerback, right? They fill one of those spots, man, they can do whatever they want to do in the draft. So that's why I like about them making those moves that we just talked about. All right, guys, last but not least today, before we get out of here, talk about a couple of guys, sleeper draft picks that Atlanta Falcons could definitely consider These guys, for the most part, has already talked to the Falcons, either at the combine, the Senior Bowl, or they've been on the visits, right? So either way, they already talked to the Falcons, um, and this is where, because a lot of people, worry about that first pick overall, right? And I get it because that's the number one overall draft pick. That's the guy supposed to be, you know, supposed to go to the Hall of Fame and all that stuff. I get it, but the guys that help win championships are those other draft picks down there, and you can definitely find Hall of Famers out of the first round. We all know that. So, a couple of these guys that I want to talk about today is Malik Washington, receiver out of Virginia, UAV. Um, guy. Now, one thing about it, um, it's kind of going against what the Atlanta Falcons been doing the last 3 years, right? So Malik Washington is a guy out of Virginia, wide receiver. He's 5'10", 194 pounds. But a young man ran a 4.4 and a 40. Really electric, one of the best receivers in the ACC. He had 110 receptions last year, 1,400 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Um, I think he'll be a really good slot receiver for the Atlanta Falcons, or he can actually play the Y or the Z, whatever you want to put him at. But I believe that Malik Washington is a guy that's, like I said, there's a lot of talented receivers in this draft. And we know all the big name receivers. We even know the second tier guys right behind those big names. A lot of those guys might not be there, but you get a guy like Malik Washington that could drop to even maybe into the third round, and you still have a good solid receiver. Um, Guy was electric with Virginia. Like I said, 110 receptions, 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns. So, um, and he has already talked to the Falcons. So be on the lookout for guys like that. Malik Washington, I think, is a guy that definitely they could consider to look at in this draft, right? Don't need him early, but you can get him late, maybe in day two, within those first 80 picks, because we do got 74 and 79, right? And then if they decide to drop back, you might even have more picks on day two. So just think about a guy like Malik Washington. Another guy going to the other side of the ball, cornerback out of Missouri, Chris Abrams Drain. Um, I love his ability to cover man, be sticky on defense. Another guy that they can pick later on in the draft. I think on one of my mock drafts that I did, I picked him in later rounds. So according to the system, he could still be there. But this guy, I really like him. We do need depth at cornerback position. So if they want to pick a veteran right now, you can go add another depth piece in the second day of the draft in that third round, and that's Chris Abrams Drain, another guy that they definitely could consider. Then Kamari Lassiter from the Georgia Bulldogs. I would have to go to my Bulldogs. I thought Lassiter probably was the best cornerback on the team last year. A guy that's played a lot of man-to-man coverage because that's what Georgia likes to do. But I love his ability to go up and attack the ball. I think he's a so tackler as well. So a guy like Kamari Lassiter, some guys that, that's not getting a lot of talk, up high. Like I said, everybody worried about the number one pick, but you want to be able to get guys in later rounds as well. And Kamari Lassiter is another guy that already have talked to the Atlanta Falcons, along with all these other guys. And then one more guy that I want to talk about, Marshawn Nealon out of Western Michigan, right? See, those are the kind of guys that it's going to definitely fly on the radar. That's not going to get a lot of hype. Guy who already talked with the Atlanta Falcons as well. But I think you're going to be able to add pass rush, even if you get a pass rusher in free agency. If you get a pass rusher in the first round, you can get a guy like Marshawn Nealon, bring him in, and add to that pass rush. So those are three guys, in my opinion, that Atlanta Falcons could consider. They already talked to the Falcons, like I said, on one of their visits. So we know the Falcons do have interest in these guys. It'll be interesting to see if one of these guys, they pick other guys you might look at. Braylon Trace, um, Jalen Simpson is another guy, safety. Like I said, if they want to go back into the draft and get another safety, they could do that. Don't anticipate them get another safety, but they could, right? Because Richard Grant is coming up in last year's his contract, so you could see them starting to add to that position. But be on the lookout, guys. They're going to start visiting more guys. We know they're visiting the big name guys that in the first round. Didn't want to talk about none of those guys, but these are some of the guys on day 2, day 3 that Atlanta Falcons could plug in and actually bring into the fold and be contributors the first season of their career, right? That's what we're looking at, right? We don't know how the kickoff rules going to change, right? Because I believe that's going to bring a lot of guys made they their careers playing kickoff and kickoff return. They change the rules, and guys you'll need those fast gunners anymore, screaming down the field, right? How that going to change the way draft boards are made, right? Because some guys are career special teamers. It's just what it is. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that pans out. The whole ideal of the kickoff, if anybody wasn't out, it is to try to create more returns, right? But without those full on going 25 mile per hour collisions, spread out so far. So they're trying to condense the distance for the blockers and the tacklers, but they want to create more returns, right? Because now if you kick it out of the end zone, you get penalized and things like that. Like I said, if you go back and look at what the XFL was doing last year, they're taking some of those rules. So it hasn't been voted on yet, though. So we're going to be interested to see what the vote is going to be on the kickoff rules and actually see how it's going to work out. But that's going to be interesting to see. What's going on, Travis? Thanks for coming in, man. If you have not please hit the like button. Go ahead and share, and hit the subscribe button as well. And make sure you let everybody else know to come out and check out Recondo, Real Falcon Fan. Once again, guys, like I said, when I say Recondo, if you're a real Falcon fan, this is for all the real Falcon fans out there, right? It's not just me. It's all you other guys that's out there, because like I said last show, if you're a Falcon fan, you are a real Falcon fan, because why else would you put yourself through these years of torment with this team year in and year out, right? If you're not a real fan, that's the way I look at it. And it's gonna be all more special when we win it all one day. So, thanks for checking in there, Travis. Like I said, hit the like button, subscribe and share as well throughout the YouTube universe. Well, guys, thank you guys for coming in. I definitely had to get on here. Like I said, I haven't been back on since Wednesday because just waiting, man. I was hoping that the Falcons would make some kind of move, but they have not. They decided not to make any moves as of yet. I still believe they're going to make moves. I think the first move we're going to hear, while it's mentioning, we don't hear anything out of this organization, which is tight-lipped, man. We don't know what's going on. But I think the first move is we're going to see is the AJ Terrell extension. I think that would be the first move. Once we see that, that's going to free up cap space, believe it or not. I think he's $12 million on the books right now because they picked up his fifth year option. So he's going to be an extension with him. Once we see that, I think we'll start seeing the dominoes fall. Maybe we will see a trade. Maybe we'll see addition to another pass rusher. Maybe not Hassan Reddick. Maybe we'll see, they add a couple of bodies in. We still don't know if Bud Dupree and Calais Campbell is coming back. We haven't heard anything about those guys yet as well. They haven't signed with other teams, so it's still a chance that the Atlanta Falcons could bring those guys back in the fold as well. And I would be okay with that, right? Because when those guys was here, they was both our leading sack guys. 6.5 sacks apiece. Right, we still had 42 sacks last season, so we can at least produce sacks. And not one of those dominant guys that we want, but we do it by committee, man. I'm cool with that as well. Um, 42 is good, but you gotta look at what the Eagles did. What 2 years ago they had 80 sacks, 70 something sacks. Now that's impressive. We can get something like that, right? But you got to have one of those guys, man, to people want to chip and put an extra body over there because he's breaking the game, right? You want a guy that when offenses pull up the film, they was like, we got to stop that guy, right? Right now, they're probably saying that to like a guy like Grady in the middle, right? And a guy like David, right? We need to stop those two guys, but we want them to be able to say that about one of our pass rushers. So that's the kind of thing that we want to be able to create with this defense, right? On every level, right? They saying on the front line, we want to stop that guy. We want to make sure one of those linebackers don't wreck the game, right? Because they're always there, make the tackles, and then they already probably say that about Jesse Bates, right? We got to know where Jesse Bates is on the field because he's a ball hawk, right? So that's what I'm talking about when we create this defense. That's what I'm talking about, trying to create this defense. But guys, thank you for coming in today. Like I said, it's draft season. We got a lot of stuff to talk about with the draft. Strategies and things like that. It's going to change up to the day of the draft. It's going to change in the draft because once we start to see movement, right, the Falcons might have to change their strategy. We decide to move back in the draft. Don't anticipate them moving up in the draft anymore because they got their quarterback. So I don't see them doing that. But I do see them maybe moving back in the draft now. Maybe Ellis does edge since Troy is back. That is Michael. That is a great point because if you go back and look what Ellis did with those Aints the season prior, he actually rushed the quarterback more. You're correct. He actually rushed the quarterback more with the Aints, right? When they had to when Troy Anderson went down, he had to play that middle linebacker position. But the way Nate Landman played, I do like that idea. Was where they can move Caden Ellis out to the outside and they bring Troy in and Nate to be those two middle linebackers. That's awesome. I never thought about that. That's a great point, right? That way you can have all three of those guys on the field because I believe that Troy Anderson still is getting it right. Hasn't reached his real potential yet, but once he get there, I think he's going to be dynamic as well. But having Caden Ellis, that's a great point, man. I like that idea. And like you said, I'm not me neither. I agree with you. Landman need to be on the field. That guy is a monster, man. I think they said at Colorado he had like 300, 400 tackles. That's ridiculous. Guy is a tackling machine, man. Nate Landman is a tackling machine. So I agree with that. But that's a great point. And if that's what they said, like, see, that's why we don't know what the Atlanta Falcons see in this roster. Their first job was to come in and look at the roster and figure out where they had, right? And maybe they say, well, this guy wasn't used to his best ability. This guy wasn't used. See what I'm saying? They might see stuff we don't see. And one thing I kind of like about coaches and new staffs, they have a fresh eyes and they see stuff differently. But I don't want them to get to the point and be like, oh, we can fix everything. Don't be that way, right? Because you got Raheem Morris coming, Jimmy Lake, like, we can do better than the last guy here. No, you need to improve. Some guys, it just wasn't getting it done last season. So I hope they see that, right? And they do make additions. So I don't want them to get to the point where they're thinking they can fix people and things. No, man, it's some holes on this roster. We're not a quarterback away. We was not just a quarterback away. And I hope they understand that, yes, If we had better quarterback play, we would have been in a better position last year. Not denying that, but to compete with some of those teams and in top teams in NFC, who I believe got better as well this offseason, and some of those, the Detroit Lions probably got better. The Green Bay Packers probably got better, right? So we want to be able to compete with those teams as well. So you got to fix some of these holes. So, but great point about Nate Landman, Kay Ellis, and Troy Anderson. The problem is your depth behind those three guys. So anticipate them adding that as well in the draft, right? You need at least one more guy that you can depend on in that linebacker room. You really need at least one more guy. Um, but guys, thank you guys coming on. All you new people just coming in, appreciate you guys coming in. Like I said, like, subscribe, share. Um, Definitely can find me on X now, Recondo K. Same thing on Instagram and things like that. I post my mock drafts out there on X. I posted 2 so far. Um, Let me know what you guys think about those drafts. Also, if you got any questions that you want to, ask about what I think about this, please post those out there as well, and then we'll come on here and talk about them. But that's all I have today. This is your boy Recondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.